You are listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon on YouTube so you can get notified every Tuesday when we upload a new episode.
You can also add us on Facebook and Instagram at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
All right, welcome back to our show. Today we are doing episode 45.
All about daily acne by popular demand from one of our subscribers. So we thought we'd touch upon that today.
Right.
And before we go into that, we're gonna obviously go into a new nutrition in the news. And with that being said, the title of this article that I had found was it's related to last week's episode, and it's called "Sweetened Drinks Represented 62% of Children's Drink Sales in 2018." 62%.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. So basically, the article said fruit drinks and flavored waters that contain added sugars and or low-calorie diet sweeteners dominated sales of drinks intended for children in 2018. So this 62% was 62% of $2.2 billion in total children's drink sales of last year. Yeah. And the report also found that companies spent $20.7 million to advertise children's drinks with added sugars in 2018, primarily to kids under 12. So I feel like that says some stuff. Yeah. And beverage companies have said they wanted to be a part of the solution to childhood obesity, but as you can tell here, they still continue to market sugar-sweetened children's drinks directly to young children on TV and through packages designed to get their attention in the store. I mean, I smell capitalism, so I'm just saying.
It's just, the actions do not match what these companies say.
No.
And it's such a tricky topic.
It's not even, since America is very capitalistic, they're not regulating their TV as much. I know in other countries, they regulate the amount of content that is streamlined to the kids, versus here, they're like, everyone has the right to do whatever they want, blah, blah, blah.
Which is great.
And they're like, we're not even doing anything. They have their own choices. Okay, when you're under 12 years old, do you really think you understand what your choices are and how you should feel about certain things? No.
Especially when, these messages are bombarded at you all the time. And to an extent, it does come down to the parents' decision to buy these things. Like under 12-year-old kids aren't going and buying these things themselves. But it also stems off of what we talked about a couple weeks ago with kids having these like DoorDash or Uber Eats apps, and they can literally like buy a Slurpee and have it delivered to them at school.
And and on top of that, when they go into the grocery store and they're with the parents, companies pay good money just to have their products on a lower level where children pass through. And that's why they grab the candy, they grab the soda, and they nag the crap out of the parents.
It's not an accident.
No, it's not. Companies buy into the spots in the grocery stores for this to happen, which I'm not surprised by the amount of sales that they're getting.
Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing. And it's clear because it made up 62% of all the beverage sales to kids. So, yeah.
So,
keep that in mind, that it's still very prevalent, even though there's so many things out there saying like, these sugar-sweetened beverages, even fruit juices, are not very good. They're usually just as bad as soda, give or take a few minor like things like vitamin C, but like sugar grams per sugar grams, they're usually right about the same like ballpark.
And it cracks me up. When I was younger, I would go ahead and grab Kool-Aid because I used to drink a lot of Kool-Aid when I was younger. And then at one point, Kool-Aid was like now with added vitamin C. Not that
And you
that's
thought it was like something great. I used to
yeah.
think like Sunny D was
Oh, that
more
was my shit.
right? I used to think it was like I was doing something good for myself. Like, oh, this is better than, my orange Fanta if I want something orange, but mm-mm,
Nope.
mm-mm.
So let us know your thoughts on that article. So
Yeah, yeah. So now we will dive into our main topic, which is the whole kind of controversy between dairy and acne. But first, we're going to dive into the history of diet and acne. So, in the late 19th and 20th centuries, dermatology textbooks often recommended dietary changes as part of a standard treatment for acne. So,
mm,
that's good.
yeah,
uh, back back then, studies had suggested that chocolate, dairy, sugar, fat, and sodium were possible contributors of inflammation and breakouts that people were experiencing. The belief in diet and the acne connection was later discounted as a relief of studies in the late 1960s and 70s. After that, dietary changes were not really recommended as part of medical therapy for acne.
mhm.
There was more like, topical medication type things versus the dietary changes. So,
Pharmacy.
you know, uh, but recently, like this has been reversed again. Dietary changes are kind of surfacing again, and there are studies showing that diet influences the endocrine and immune response in such a way that it can lead to the development of acne. So today, the big contributors, like dietary contributors, are basically the dietary glycemic index or the glycemic load of food.
Mhm.
Dairy and or milk is another big contributor, and then omega-3 fatty acids and chocolate are the kind of big four things that dietary changes that will influence acne.
And before we do get into that little sh- like topic of dairy, we do
Mhm.
want to touch upon the glycemic index and load, which is pretty unfamiliar with a lot of people, and it does fall into the one one of the four diet acne hypotheses that they do study, and this theory has the most research behind it. So much of it is quite recent, although it's mostly observational rather than actually clinical. So, glycemic index ranks the potential of carbohydrate containing foods to raise blood glucose and insulin concentration. Glycemic load takes portion size and type of carbohydrate into consideration. Foods with high glycemic index are rapidly digested and absorbed, resulting in hyperglycemia and reactive hyperinsulinemia. So foods with a low glycemic index has a more of a gradual response.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and this whole glycemic load comes into play a little bit later when we talk about why dairy might or might not have an effect on acne. But let's
Right,
dive into the research. There is a lot of research, so bear with us. We're going to go over a
right.
lot of different studies here.
Hmm.
Um, as with most nutrition topics, the research is quite controversial, but there are a substantial amount of studies that have shown that milk and dairy do influence acne, but unfortunately, most have been more observational versus clinical. So that raises a little bit of, how trustworthy is the research, but more and more research is emerging.
Hmm.
So, the first study we want to talk about is a retrospective study by Harvard, and they asked 47,000 women to recall their high school diets and whether they had physician diagnosed acne. Women who reported consuming at least 2 glasses of non fat milk per day in their teenage years had a 44% increase of having acne as an adolescent. A similar increased risk was also seen for total milk intake. So, pretty strong
Hmm.
findings there, 44% increase. And then a second study by the same research group this time it was a prospective study. It evaluated dietary intakes of 6,094 girls aged 9 to 15 using food frequency questionnaires and found that consuming 2 or more servings of milk per day, this was either whole milk, low fat milk, or skim milk, it was associated with acne. So another finding there. And then a third study from this research group evaluated the association between milk consumption and acne among 4,273 boys aged 9 to 15, so males this time, and a positive association was found between consuming at least 2 cups of skim milk per day and acne. So it's seen among men and women in their adolescent ages.
So in all 3 studies, the researchers suggested that milk contains hormonal constituents of factors that can influence endogenous hormones and in turn can affect the development or the aggravation of acne. However, all the studies were all based on self-reported dietary intake and self-reported acne. The retrospective study required that adults recall dietary habits from decades earlier. Okay, that's decades earlier. And the validity of this study in particular has been called into doubt. I mean, you would understand why. I don't know what I ate several years ago.
Right.
So 3 meta-analyses published in 2018 further examined the relationship between dairy and or milk and acne. One analysis of 13 studies found that study participants who consumed milk had a 16% increased risk of acne compared to those who didn't drink milk. So moderate to severe acne was associated with milk consumption, while no significant association was found between mild acne and milk consumption. So, as in earlier studies, a stronger association was found among participants who drank skim milk compared with low fat or full fat milk, which I thought that was interesting.
It's weird.
Yeah. It's unknown why the association between milk and acne appear to be stronger for non-fat compared with full fat milk, but results haven't been consistent either. So with some showing total milk intake is associated with acne as well. So that's still up in the air.
Very controversial. Yeah. So then another meta-analysis of 14 studies that included children, adolescents, and adults ranging from 7 years old to 30 years old found a 41% increase of risk of acne paired with 1 glass of milk of any kind per day. So that's pretty substantial findings as well. In this particular study, yogurt and cheese were also associated with an increased risk. The researchers did say that due to lack of consistency across the studies in the meta-analysis, the findings should be interpreted with caution. So meta-analysis took multiple different studies, but of course they're all going to have, some different parameters and whatnot. So something to keep in mind. And then in another meta-analysis of observational studies, researchers found no association between yogurt and cheese consumption with acne, but total milk, whole milk, low-fat milk, and skim milk were positively associated with acne. So we see a trend here. These observational studies do suggest that dairy and or milk consumption may initiate or aggravate acne, but there are no randomized controlled trials to verify this link. So that is important.
So what are the potential explanations for this? So we'll just touch upon these real quick and you can kind of make up your own opinions for yourself. So first off, cows produce milk to feed their baby calves and to help them grow. Whey and casein, the proteins within the milk, stimulate growth and hormones within the calves, and in us when we drink their milk. So when we digest these proteins, they release a hormone similar to insulin called IGF-1. For my nutrition majors, you know what I'm talking about. This hormone is known to trigger breakouts. Sometimes the hormones in milk can also interact with our own hormones, confusing our body's endocrine system and therefore signaling breakouts. So, lactose is the natural sugar present in milk. After infancy, it becomes more difficult for humans to break down lactose and to actually digest it. And if you belong to the 65% of people who are lactose intolerant, including myself, your acne related breakout could be due to a lactose sensitivity or an allergic reaction.
Mhm.
Again, I would like to point out that lactose intolerance is not black and white either, because you can be slightly sensitive versus really sensitive. And that also depends on the type of dairy product and how much fermentation it has actually gone through itself as well.
Right. Yeah, it's a huge spectrum, and just the difference between intolerance and allergy can play a huge role as well. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of different things kind of going on with why dairy might trigger acne breakouts, but none of it's really set in stone or or clear. There's
Right.
a lot of different hypotheses, like, you know, milk is for calves to help them grow, the hormones like kind of screw with ours, which makes sense, but there's really no research to support that yet.
Hmm.
It's all just theory at this point. And then, according to the American Academy of Dermatology, they have recognized that milk may lead to breakouts. That's their statement. They recognize that. It's not us saying that. um, they
Does it?
also, sorry.
I was gonna say it doesn't mean that we're funded by the dairy industry either, despite some of y'all's hypothesis that dietitians are.
Right. Yeah, this is from the American Academy of Dermatology. This is their statements on the topic. We're just reporting. um, they also say that some studies may show an association between acne and high glycemic load diet. So, this is kind of branching on what we said earlier. So, this is diets that can include a lot of sugar, sodas, juices, white bread, pasta, and heavily processed cereals. While milk is technically like a lower glycemic beverage, some studies suggest that drinking milk may be linked to an increase in breakouts. Again, the American Academy of Dermatology says that these studies include all types of milk, whole milk, low fat, and skim milk have been linked to acne. They also reference a study saying women who drink more than 2 glasses of skim milk per day were 44% more likely to have acne than other women in this particular study, but this is one that they have on their website that they reference.
That's quite
So,
a dramatic jump, 44%.
yeah, it's just, between the studies that like we found and then the
Hmm.
one that they reference, it is quite a big jump. Um, but this is their statement. These
Right,
are, the experts in this field on acne. So,
right. So basically, we're obviously not going to tell you how to treat acne because you know our scope of practice forbids us from doing so.
yeah.
Um, but there is a pretty big amount of research to suggest that skim milk, especially, can play a part in acne.
Mhm.
So, from a nutritional standpoint, you can try elimination diets yourself, aka avoid the food for a while and see what happens. And this goes with any food you suspect you have an issue with. Of
Right.
course, I will point out that it would be wise that you go ahead and visit a dermatologist, because sometimes when you try to self fix things, it's always not the greatest when you could just
Mhm.
go to your dermatologist and have it resolved really quickly. So,
Right. Right.
so let us know on your thoughts about dairy and acne. I know this has been like an ongoing question. Like I
Mhm.
I, I know that a subscriber recommended this to us, but obviously
Mhm.
I have received this question before.
Yeah.
So I'm finally glad we were able to do an episode on it. So I hope it kind of
Mhm.
clears things up for you guys. If you have
Mhm.
any comments, please let us know.
Mhm.
Anything else you would actually like us to talk about, that'd be fantastic.
Right. I've had this question and concern from a lot of my own clients, and
Mhm.
the thing is, there's nothing in dairy that you can't get from other foods too.
Mhm.
So if you don't feel good when you eat it, no one's forcing it down your throat. So
Unless you're a 12-year-old kid with parents that want you to
I
drink milk every
know.
day.
I know. Exactly. But if you're a grown adult and you don't like dairy, you don't like how it makes you feel, you think it makes you break out, okay, don't.
Wow, that was great. Okay,
Just don't. Yeah.
that was great.
So just my thoughts on the topic. So with that, we are going to lead into our social media shout out of the week. So this goes to profile at Oncology Nutrition Strong, ran by Nicole. She is a dietitian who specifically works to improve cancer outcomes. She has a ton of great and different infographics, which she discusses evidence-based research on all different types of cancer. So definitely go check out her page, follow her, learn something new. All right. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this one.
Yes, thank you so much. And if you, like I said, if you have any more suggestions, topics, or anything that you guys want us to talk about, we'll fucking do it.
Please let us know.
Do it.
We'll do anything. Just kidding.
Whoa.
All right. Thank you guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for a brand new episode.
Also, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
We'd love to hear from you, so please leave us a review
5 stars, no less.
on whatever platform you're listening to, or send us an email at keepingitjuicypodcast@gmail.com.
Or if you have any topics you'd like for us to touch upon, shoot us an email. Until next time, don't do anything that I wouldn't do. I tell people I'm on a low-carb diet, but in reality, I just eat pasta while lying on the floor. Wow. All right, then. Stephen Colbert said that, so blame it on him. Did you hear about the hungry clock? He went back 4 seconds.
Oh my gosh. What do you call a cow that doesn't give milk? A milk dud.
So stupid.
Why did the cow cross the road?
'Cause I don't know.
To get to the other side.
Oh my god, I should have guessed that. I keep trying to lose weight, but it keeps finding me. My fitness goal is to get down to what I told the DMB I weigh.
Seriously.
I haven't been that weight since 83 years. Straight up, man.
How did Reese eat her milk and cereal? Oh, I'll say it again because you have to like pay attention to the words. How did Reese eat her cereal? With her spoon.
Shut up. Sorry, Reese.
Reese
Oh,
Witherspoon.
I enjoy that little chick. According to this nutrition label, I am a family of 4.
Been there.